أم، أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا. ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا. ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به. واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Inshallah, we're continuing our discussion of the 14th word. If you have the book or want to find the page online, it's page 181. We've been discussing verses that at first hand don't really make sense. And we've been trying to study the author's approach to these particular verses. Today we're studying the fifth. Just for the sake of the conversation, I'll call it the fifth point, but in the text it just says the fifth. And before I start, because this is an interesting point, I think last time we read the verses, but we didn't go through the author's interpretation. So the verses are here on the screen if you need to take a look at it. But before we go into this, I think the question is, how do you guys feel when you read verses in the Quran, or when you hear of verses in the Quran that are related to what in common language we'll call punishment? Do you think is your own opinion that man can at some point deserve punishment, or do you perceive it as something unnecessary or unfair? This is just an opening question for, what are the first thoughts, or what are your feelings when you read these kind of verses, when the Quran starts talking about punishment?
I guess I'll just share in. I'm not sure exactly what verses are we talking about as far as punishment is concerned, but in generally speaking, I think we are all here on a learning journey. So we're just learning what things point to, what is the purpose of my existence. And within this journey, we make mistakes. And obviously, if I'm not rectified or nobody corrects me on this, then I would not learn and further progress. So if scripture or the speech of God does mention punishment, it's really should be looked into the light of learning and human development, which really what we're all doing here. We're students in the school of the universe, and as a student in a school or a classroom, if when he or she makes a mistake, it's not that the teacher punishes him or her, but the student may perceive it as a punishment, but it's just a learning experience. So anything is really coming out of concern from the teacher. Similarly, us as students in the universe, everything is taught to us so that we learn from our mistakes. Just wanted to share these things.
Thank you very much. I see another hand up. Go ahead.
I had a lot of issues with this punishment concept in religion in general, growing up. nobody asked me to exist, right? Like it's not even my decision. I'm just here. It's completely his decision to create me, and here I am. And he's in charge of the whole universe, and he set everything up, and I have no say in the matter. And then he comes to me and saying that like, hey, like if you don't do this and that, or if you act this way or that way, you're going to go to hell. I had a lot of issues like when religion presented this way, and I had struggled with like understanding those kind of like verses, like what's the like really the wisdom behind it, or if there is any truth to it. But that was like, I guess like when I was younger or growing up, like to me, like the punishment or any verse that talks about punishment in Quran, I recently come to realization that, and that's after I became a parent, the degree of the severity of the punishment or the language itself is the measure of the mercy of the creator. What I mean by that is, it's not like, oh, like he created and like there is a right path, and if you don't follow the right path, he's just gonna like punish you. His mercy is absolute and so immense that he gives you the guidance and telling you how to attain the serenity, the peace that you are looking for innately. And once you act against it, that punishment or the language come as a reaction to that mercy that he has for you, or the love that he has for you. I think you really like see that like in a like mother or like child or father child relationship. There are, for example, cases that like my son never listens to me, and he's 4 and he's very stubborn, but he does sometimes stuff that can be really dangerous to his own like well-being. And then when I react in a certain way, I realize that I don't necessarily mean to be mean to him, but just the mercy, God's like the mercy reflection like of God's mercy in me that like pushes me to react in a certain way. So like in that relationship, I realized that like I certainly I cannot claim ownership over the mercy, right? Like has nothing to do with me, because I never experienced that before I was put in a relationship that I should experience it. So if it is his, and if I'm just kind of, for the lack of a better word, if I'm just a pawn in this whole setup, if that's how he makes me react to his creature because of like concern of like his well-being, how would he really himself like just punish or like punishment being the center of his dealing with his creatures. It just like, to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like on one hand, like being absolutely mercy and compassionate, on the other hand, like absolutely like, I guess, avenger. It just doesn't go together. So like to me, like the degree of that like severity of that language comes, again, it comes from his mercy and love to give you a warning. Hey, like you are going to a direction that you are gonna hurt and damage yourself. Why are you doing this injustice to yourself?
Thank you so much. I appreciate both of you sharing your understanding. And in relation to what you just said, the author exactly mentions that questions you were asking earlier in your life. You know, you kind of said, well, I didn't have a choice to be here, but then, so why am I sort of being punished for anything? So the author asks the same question. I mean, I'm someone who only possesses partial will and have no power to create. So why exactly am I going to be punished? What the author does is he offers us around, I think, 6 verses, maybe more, where he basically is saying, okay, where the verses are basically explaining that, okay, creation is taken care of at every possible stage, even stages you don't even recognize. And nothing is out of the creator's reach, and nothing is hidden from the creator. And even the creator's will is much, it cannot be compared to anyone's will, but it's the only will that that can actually accomplish anything. Okay, before I say anything, go ahead, Brother Adi.
A short comment on our friend's comment. It was a good analysis of our reality, and I appreciated it. The problem rise among the people, not necessarily for those who don't believe in the Quran, but even those people who believe in the Quran. Here, we regard the Quran as God's word, but we forget that God is speaking to me for my own benefit, introducing himself, as the previous speakers mentioned. It is the mercy of the Creator when he sends the message to me. So when we read the message, we have to look at the explanations, presentations, examples, by definition, from our perspective. What does it mean, our perspective? Yes, God is speaking to me, but why he uses encouraging sentences, verses in his speech, and sometimes even more so, uses severe language, not only an angry language, but severe language or negative, threatening. No, severe threatening, not a simple threatening. I have to say, look, as our friends mentioned, there is no need to repeat, you created me and you start threatening me. No. What is wrong with me? What I need to be taught, so that you are emphasizing on threatening, throwing on me the threatening languages. Why is it so important? If we look at the case from our perspective, because of the definition of the Quran is that God is speaking to me, for myself, in order to guide me. So the example, parent or teacher, previous speaker mentioned, teacher example, parent example. If you think that the students or your children do not need any warning at all, why would you use the severe language? But you know the children are growing and learning how to challenge the things that prevent them from satisfying themselves. So parents' mercy mentioned, there is no need to go into detail, parents' mercy necessitates for the sake of children that the children need severe warning. In the traffic, for example, we see that if there is something very important on the roadside, warning, 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 everywhere repeated. Why? Do you think when the administration is angry with me that he keeps warning me? So I said, I need it. That's why they do it. I have to be thankful. But at the same time, pay attention to my nature, which we are going to my reality, which we are going to read now. Why do we need severe warning? And in which case? I mean, if I am doing something nice, why should I need doing something according to my reality? Why should I need warning? But when the things go and may go, the possibility that may go, strong possibility, and of course I need to be warned. That is my for my benefit, and we will pay attention while we are reading the examples. That is what we need if we are not really doing appropriately or acting appropriately according to the purpose of our creation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready to now study the author's interpretation, or perhaps his answer. So here we go. I think we stopped here at the first comparison. So this is where I'll start reading. First comparison. For example, there was a royal garden in which innumerable fruit-bearing and flowering things were found. Many servants were appointed to attend it. The duty of one of the servants was only to open the water canal so that the water could spread throughout the garden and be benefited from. So we have a garden, everything is prepared in it. A lot of servants were asked to go and attend to it. One servant was given the duty to open the water canal so that the water could spread throughout the garden. But the servant was lazy and did not open the canal. So harm came to the growth of the garden, or else it dried up. All the other servants had the right to complain, not about the creator's dominical art and the sultan's royal supervision and the obedient service of the light and air and earth, but about that foolish servant, for their duties were all made fruitless, or else harm came to them. Okay, so the author is telling us, okay, imagine this scenario, everything is ready. One person was just supposed to open the water canal. If he did open the water canal, everybody's going to benefit from this garden. But if he doesn't, then a lot of harm is going to come to the garden. Now, everybody else, all the other servants are confused. They're like, we need to complain about this lazy servant who didn't do his job. And they think it's appropriate to complain about the lazy servant and not about the creator's art or the sultan's supervision, or the service of the light and air and earth. So the analogy is pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. The thing I'm struggling with, like, I think people will immediately go into saying, well, laziness is a quality that, you know, that's created. Of course, if I'm the lazy servant, I want to run away from the punishment. So I'm going to try my best to blame someone else. But again, laziness, I would argue that laziness is something that it's not created by me. So why am I being blamed for it? And why am I given such a big responsibility knowing that I can be lazy? I don't know. I'm just throwing out questions. Any thoughts? What do you guys think about this analogy? Okay, go ahead, Brother Hash.
If no one is
Yes. No,
willing
go.
to speak, otherwise I would just stop, really. That's a good question. It comes to our mind, but we have to understand the reality of our creation in this world, that we are created with free will. It's extremely important. Why are we given the free will? In order to really perfect ourselves as a result of our own choices, so that we will delight learning, improving our human qualities, and finding out what is hidden in our potentialities. For example, one can say that, look, we can live without any scientific research, any effort to find out if we can benefit from the universe, the way it is created, from the order of the universe, and live it like nowadays they call it primitive man. Why do we bother to find out something? So that lots of huge laboratories, thousands of people are employed there. Laboratories cost a lot of money. Why do we bother that? We want to make better of our life. That is within us. That's how we are created. No one can say to the father or the teacher that, don't bother yourself with your students. Why do you bother yourself with your children? Let them do whatever they want to do. And parents say, no, never, because he cannot stop himself. It is within his own nature, the way he or father or mother, actually, in the example our friend gave was father. That's why I keep repeating it. So it is in the creation of the father or mother that they take care of it, because they want their children to be healthy, to make a better progress in their life. That is within human nature. Why? The simple answer I have, whether it's satisfactory or not, I will leave it to you. We are created here to make ourselves better. Better in which case, in which sense? To learn something that potentially we are able to learn, but it is in potentiality, like the order of the universe has it is within it is potentiality to make a computer, to make an airplane, etc., to make my life better. And this is within my human nature, the way I am created. I need betterment. That is why I am given free will to choose between the right and between the wrong. For example, everybody knows that insulting a person is not a good thing. And I have to decide and try my best not to insult any person. But the Quran speaks not only person-to-person relationship, but the person to universe, the creation, the other creatures, animals, plants, inanimate beings, whatever you say. And I shouldn't insult them. They are performing their mission, if you like, the mission of their creation in the best way to introduce their creator. If I say you are nonsense, you are meaningless, do I have the right to insult a man saying that you are stupid? Nonsense? So should I not have the right attitude towards an animal, towards a plant, or even inanimate being, insulting them that they are meaningless? Therefore, and ultimately, it boils down to insulting the creator of these beings, that he has done something stupid. Then God says, be careful, you are harming yourself. Instead of making progress, you are choosing the wrong option. So as help from our Creator, he says, never ever do that, because it goes against your reality. So you will be contradicting with your reality by not using the right way, but wrong way. You will torture yourself of being meaningless, being a meaningless creature in this world. So that is against you. You want to have a perfect life, meaningful life, and also whatever we do right, we are happy with it. And when we do something wrong, if we steal somebody's property, we don't want anybody to see it. That is how we are. Conclusion, we should never forget that we are given free choice, so that we are here to use the right one, which we are encouraged to, because we love doing the right things, and not to choose the wrong one. And this is discouraged in our nature. When we do something wrong, we are ashamed of it, and we don't like anybody to know it. And that is how the education needs the guidance from the one who created me and wants me to be happy with my life. Enjoy it by making progress. Thank you.
Thank you. I just to answer my own questions basically from what you said and what we read together. If I were to add the word, but the free servant was lazy and did not open the canal, then I would say, oh, okay, then yeah, I do deserve the punishment or the warning or the lesson. And then the responsibility becomes an opportunity to actually reveal my free will to me, and reveal what choice I'm making, basically. Okay. We can move on to the second comparison, and let's see if we find out anything new. So the second comparison is saying, so for example, if through abandoning his minor duty on a mighty royal ship, a common man causes harm to come to the result of the duties of all the others employed on the ship, and some of them even are made to come to nothing, the ship's owner will complain bitterly about him in the name of all the others.
I'm
The
sorry,
ship's-
what page are we on?
We are on page 182.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Sorry
Sure.
about the interruption.
It's okay. We're reading from the second comparison. So I was saying the ship's owner will complain bitterly about him in the name of all the others. So now we have a little bit of a different scenario. A common man, he causes harm to come to the results of the duties of all the others employed on the ship. So because of one man's action, everybody else's actions is also at stake. So the ship's owner complains not only about the person who causes harm, but he's complaining about him in the name of all the others. And the one at fault cannot say, I'm just an ordinary person. I don't deserve this severity because of my unimportant omission. For a single instance of non-existence results in innumerable such instances, whereas existence yields results in accordance with itself. I'll repeat this sentence. For a single instance of non-existence, okay, a single instance of non-existence will result in innumerable such instances. So many instances. Whereas existence yields results in accordance with itself. Whereas existence will only, I guess, say, follow the order of itself. I can't say of itself, but follow the order, and thus will yield results within that particular order. For although the existence of a thing is dependent on the existence of all the conditions and causes, its non-existence, its removal, occurs with the removal of a single condition and results from the non-existence of a single particle. I'm sorry, 1 second. I'm very sorry. Okay, for although the existence of a thing is dependent on the existence of all the conditions and causes, its non-existence is its removal occurs with the removal of a single condition and results from the non-existence of a single particular. So just to break it down, so the existence of a thing depends on the existence of all the conditions and causes. So basically everything is dependent. But its non-existence, its removal occurs with the removal of a single condition. So one single change will result from the non-existence of a single particular. So in order to destroy something, you just have to take away one part of the process, or not accomplish one part of the process, and then everything else is gone as well. It is because of this that destruction is much easier than repair, has become like a universally accepted principle. Since the basis of unbelief and misguidance and rebellion and sin are denial and rejection, they are an abandoning and non-acceptance. However positive and possessing of existence they appear superficially, in reality they are removal and non-existence, in which case they are a contagious crime. Just as they cause harm to the results of the acts of other beings, so they draw a veil over the manifestation of the beauties of the divine names. Okay. So here we're seeing in this example, one person's action has affected everybody else's action. And in return of that, well, I mean, the author is explaining how eventually this is not only that it's destroying something right now, but eventually it's like drawing a veil over the manifestation of the beauties of the divine names. Okay. Any questions here? There must be questions here because the paragraph has a lot going on. What's not clear? I see a comment. it is really hard to understand. It is really very hard to understand for me that instead of other employees complain about him in the name of God, God complain about him in the name of all others, as if employees have the right. Creators should have the right. Oh, you're saying that the ship owner in this analogy must be God, and this is why, and he shouldn't be complaining bitterly about him in the name of all others. Just let me know if I understand you correctly. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, I feel like these rights are given to other creatures by the God, but why, like those creatures not complain for the sake of God, but it's opposite. God is complaining for the sake of creatures as if they have themselves the right. That was like little hard to understand for me. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the way I understood it is the ship owner will complain bitterly about him in the name of all of the others. Because this person is not just someone who doesn't understand what he's doing. Because when the author continues to say, and the one at fault cannot say, I'm just an ordinary person, I don't deserve this severity because of my unimportant omission. My understanding is that this person has caused other people harm in their own work. So it's almost like, okay, let's say we're 10 people, we're all asked to do different things, but I know that if I don't do my task, everyone else will not be able to do their task. And so I don't. And then everybody else is stuck not being able to do their own task. So the ship owner will come to complain about me, saying, in the name of all others, it's almost like their job was not done because of you choosing not to do your job. But that's my understanding. If anyone else sees something different, please go ahead.
It's like usually, like for example, in the life, in business also, somehow people complain, employees complain to the owner that this guy is not doing his job. But in this scenario, it's like opposite. Other employees, instead of employees, the owner of the business comes and complains that your friends are saying you're not doing your job. It is like a little like vice versa from our experiences.
Yeah, that's how I understand it. Go ahead, brother.
I don't know whether I have the right answer to this question, but ultimately, as I mentioned earlier, that when I insult a being in this world, it goes ultimately insulting its creator, doing something stupid, meaningless, and harming his creatures. In the example that the farmer or the person who is responsible just to open the ark, because he's not responsible to create water, he's not responsible to create plants, anything, just already existing water should be let its way to go and reach the plants. And all the work is God's work. It's going to be. But at the end, the garden will flourish and the garden will fulfill its duty to announce its creator's perfection to conscious beings. So if there is no garden, I personally would not acknowledge or would not have any means of acknowledging God's mercy. So I will be suffering from lack of food. I will keep complaining, who created me here? And he's not going going to feed me. And I am suffering here. I am let alone. This is not the case because of one person who didn't do his job. God is under accusation. So on behalf of the right of the beings which are his property, it means if someone harms my car, for example, I say, don't harm my car. It is when you harm my car, you are ultimately being irrespectful to me, maybe ultimately really insulting me, that you don't deserve it, man. As if. So God, when he speaks to us in the Quran, the guidance that we describe the Quran as the guidance, when we read the Quran, it is for my sake. And when I do perfection, it is good for me, and God will be very happy with it. Why? I remember giving the example, if a person makes this computer and a person like me uses it as a typewriter only, and he comes and he's not happy with me. Why? Oh man, you are using only 1% of the capacity of my work. You don't really acknowledge me. And if a person really uses his work, his computer programs, everything perfectly, he will be pleased with it, which means the purpose of the computer has been fulfilled, and the purpose of the man who created to use the computer has been fulfilled. So perfection comes out at the end. So rather than I will complain God, the tree will complain God, God speaks to me that the result will be this. Because tree doesn't speak to me, I can say tree is naturally happening in this way, and it doesn't really say anything. He continues to declare the perfection of the Creator's qualities. He continues it. He doesn't mind. It is created in this way. He doesn't have free will. But if I do the same thing to a human being will cry out. So but he has the free will to defend his right. So God is speaking on behalf of the, if you like, not able to speak openly, but only action-wise, right of these creatures. God says, look, if you do it, they will make this, they are making this complaint, but you don't hear it. But I can explain it to you. You are doing something wrong. The purpose is you are doing something wrong. I am just reminding you, I am just warning you. So all things I feel that all these kind of problems that the people rise, why Quran's God is an angry God, why not loving God, this kind of, I mean, apparently right way of criticizing the Quran, but really not right way, let's say wrong way of approaching the Quran, because they think that the Quran is speaking in order to introduce himself to human beings so that he will be proud of it. No, 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 no. I need to acknowledge that I have a creator who is a perfect, absolute being, and only acknowledging his existence, only acknowledging him, I can enjoy my life. Otherwise, my life is what? Horrible. I'm going to die and perish away. Meaningless, purposeless life makes me feel miserable. And why am I here? Of course, I have the right to receive the guidance to make my life pleased because I am created to enjoy my existence. In order to fulfill this need, I need guidance, and it is God's mercy that he tells me all this and speaks on behalf of the right of his creatures, because all the other creatures cannot speak and say that, hey, you are insulting us. What you have no right at all. You don't understand what we are doing. You don't want to understand what you are doing. Accuse yourself, not accuse us. That is what God is revealing, what is going on to me in reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, Agave.
Yeah, this like complaining on behalf of them, that's a very new thing for me. It's like hard to digest because, yeah, that's why I was confused. And it shows also that God really give value to his art, his creatures, so that he talks through this way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I hope this is clear to everybody. We can move on to the next paragraph. So the monarch of beings, whose right it is to make these innumerable complaints, therefore utters awesome complaints about rebellious man in the name of those beings. And to do so is perfect wisdom. Rebellious man is certainly deserving of his severe and awesome threats. Without doubt, he deserves them. I think we talked about this a little bit. I think we can move on to the conclusion. Okay, go ahead, Brother Ed.
Yes, we can, and we will. I'll be as short as possible. This is the answer to the question. The last sentence you read, only rebellious man deserves this severe and awesome threats. If a child is behaving nice, if a student is doing his work, why the teacher should warn them? Maybe he may say, you are doing well, but you have the option, try not to leave this option that you are choosing. Your choice is that you are doing well. I appreciate it. I'm very happy with it, but be careful with your inclination towards being lazy. Maybe say, but normally no one will say to his children, if they are behaving nice and coming and threatening them, saying that if we do something nasty, no. If there is a possibility, they say, yeah, you are very nice. I'm very happy. Please keep doing this. Encouragement comes there. Otherwise, threat or warning language need to be addressed to the rebellious people being on the wrong side. Thank you.
Thank you. So the conclusion starts with a verse. It says, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. And what are the goods of this world but the goods of deception? This can be found in chapter 3, verse 185. And sort of the subtitle for this conclusion is, this is a slap for the heedless and a warning lesson. The author starts off by talking to himself, kind of. He's saying, "Oh, my wretched soul, sunk in heedlessness, which sees this life as sweet, has forgotten the hereafter, and seeks only this world. Do you know what you resemble? An ostrich. It sees the hunter but cannot fly, so sticks its head in the sand so the hunter will not see it. but its bulky body remains in the open and the hunter sees it. Only its eyes are closed in the sand and it cannot see him. O my soul, consider the following comparison and see it. It's almost like you can't really protect yourself. Because you're just, your eyes are closed, but everybody else can see you. So that's interesting. Restricting one's view to this world transforms a great pleasure into a grievous pain. For example, there are two men in this village, that is in Barla. 99 out of 100 of the friends of one of them have gone to Istanbul, where they are living in fine fashion. So 99 out of 100 of the friends of one of them have gone. They left to Istanbul. Only one has remained here, and he too will go there. For this reason, the man longs for Istanbul and thinks of it. He wants to join his friends. When he is told to go there, he's overjoyed and goes happily. As for the second man, 99 of his friends have departed from here. So it's the same situation, but for a different person. But some have perished, and some have been put in places where they neither see nor are seen. So most of his friends basically cannot be found. They're there, but you cannot see them. He imagines that they departed and disappeared in utter misery. So he's sitting there wondering, where did they all go? And he imagines that they just left. This wretched man becomes friendly with a single guest in place of all of them, and wants to find consolation. Through him, he wants to forget his grievous pain of separation. So we have two men, the same situation. Friends are gone. For the first man, his friends are all left to Istanbul, and he knows that they all left to that particular place. And even though he's still not there with them, he knows he's going to go there very soon. For the second person, his friends have departed from here, but you cannot see them, you cannot tell where they are, you're not sure what happened to them. So he assumes that they just disappeared. And he chooses to become friendly with a single guest in place of all of them. And through him, he wants to forget his grievous pain of separation. So it's sort of like he already imagines that he's been separated. He wants to make up for the pain. He finds a person, and then he directs all his need of being friends with someone to that particular person. O my soul, foremost, God's beloved and all your friends are beyond the grave. The one or two who remain will also depart for there. So do not be frightened of death, or anxious at the grave, and avert your head. Look manfully at the grave, and listen to what it seeks. Laugh in death's face like a man, and see what it wants. Beware, do not be heedless and resemble the second man. So here the author really clarifies that the second man is heedless. And he continues to live in pain, whereas the first person is a little more secure and is patient to go to where all his friends are. And in this particular analogy, I'm guessing that Istanbul is resembling the after the grave life. So for me to be able to go to where my friends are, if I'm the first person, I need to be open or not afraid of death. And the least is that I'm not assuming some pain like the second man, and I'm not taking on the burden of having to heal from separation. Instead, I'm actually patiently just patiently waiting. That's a redundant word to use, but just patiently hanging out in this world until I go and join my friends. So he's saying, "Oh, my soul, do not say the times have changed. This age is different. Everyone is plunged into this world and worships this life. Everyone is drunk with the struggle for livelihood, for death does not change. And separation is not transformed into permanence and does not become different. Man, impotence, and poverty do not change, they increase. Man's journey is not cut, it just becomes faster." Okay, we can stop here for today. No more reading, but if someone has a question or a comment or a reflection, I hope everyone is okay to stay on one more minute. For any questions or reflections about the past 3 or 4 paragraphs. I'm just bringing it back on the screen in case you need to read anything. Okay, well, I guess we can keep the rest for the next discussion. And I'll see you next time, inshallah. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.